When most people think of Metal Gear Solid, they remember the action, the boss fights, and the stealth. But beneath all of this is something much deeper. This wasn't just another video game. It was one of the first games that made players question the people they were fighting, and even the orders they were following. Today we're heading deeper into Shadow Moses. The mission is becoming more dangerous, but it's also becoming more mysterious. Snake will come face to face with one of the most iconic and enigmatic characters in gaming history, the cyborg ninja. As the operation unfolds, more questions begin to emerge than answers. Every new discovery changes what we think we know about the mission, and the truth remains just out of reach. But as always, this documentary isn't just about replaying a game. We pause throughout the mission to explore the real-world history behind the weapons, equipment, military tactics and historical influences that help shape these unforgettable moments. We separate Hollywood from the reality. We look at what the game gets right and where the creative license takes over. My goal is simple: to experience Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, the way a real Special Forces operator might approach the mission, carefully, methodically, and with only one chance. So let's head back into Shadow Moses. This is Operation Metal Gear Solid, Episode 3.
Be careful. You absolutely must not use weapons in that area.
I've already programmed the Nanomachines so that he won't be able to, Colonel.
What? What are you talking about?
One of the most memorable concepts introduced in Metal Gear Solid is the idea of nanomachines. Throughout the series, they're portrayed as microscopic devices capable of enhancing a soldier's abilities, monitoring vital signs, suppressing pain, and even communicating directly with the nervous system. It's one of the game's most iconic science fiction concepts. But how close to reality is it? The answer is not very. Real nanotechnology doesn't resemble tiny mechanical robots. Instead, scientists work with structures measured in nanometers, a nanometer being 1/1000th of a meter. At this scale, researchers engineer molecules and nanoparticles and microscopic materials designed to perform highly specialized tasks. Although Metal Gear Solid presents nanomachines as futuristic technology, the science behind nanotechnology has been developing for decades. The concept was first proposed by the American physicist Richard Feynman in 1959, before the term nanotechnology was later coined by the Japanese scientist Norio Taniguchi in 1974, throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Advances in microscopy and material science transformed the idea from theory into a rapidly growing field of scientific research. Today, nanotechnology is already being used in medicine, electronics, advanced material science, and one of its most promising applications is targeted drug delivery, where specifically engineered nanoparticles are designed to carry medicine directly to disease cells while reducing damage to healthy tissue. We're still a long way, though, from the battlefield technology imagined in Metal Gear Solid. The science that inspired these ideas is very real and continues to advance every year.
Have you forgotten? That's where they keep the nuclear warheads. Can't you see them?
Yeah, there's lots of boxes piled up in here, but are they all warheads?
Yes, they're all dismantled warheads.
All of the warheads in those boxes have had their detonation mechanisms removed, so there's no fear of them exploding. But if the warheads are broken, they might leak plutonium, and that would be a serious problem.
As soon as the codec conversation ends, Naomi's explanation is put into action. Snake is unable to use his weapons inside the nuclear warhead storage building, because Dr. Naomi Hunter has programmed his nanomachines to prevent him doing so. As Naomi has already explained, plutonium may be leaking from one of the dismantled nuclear warheads, making the area too dangerous to risk firing a weapon. Within the game's story, firing a weapon could create unnecessary hazards inside the facility, containing damaged nuclear materials. Bullets striking metal surfaces could produce sparks and damage storage equipment and containment systems. If the radioactive plutonium particles had already leaked from a damaged warhead, the impact and resulting damage could disturb and disperse these particles into the air. Anyone nearby could then inhale or ingest the contaminated dust, significantly increasing the risk of radioactive exposure. From a scientific perspective, this is actually one of the more believable ideas presented in Metal Gear Solid. Simply firing a weapon near plutonium would not trigger a nuclear explosion. However, if a dismantled warhead had been damaged and radioactive contamination was already present, avoiding any unnecessary disturbance would be a sensible safety precaution. In that respect, the game's explanation is grounded in a genuine understanding of the dangers posed by the radioactive materials. Even though it simplifies the science for dramatic effect, this is another clever example of Metal Gear Solid blending storytelling with gameplay. Rather than simply talking about nanomachines, the game immediately demonstrates how they can influence Snake's actions, making the technology feel like a natural part of the world. The game also explains that Snake's nanomachines provide pain relief during his mission. While this is beyond the capability of today's nanotechnology, researchers are actively developing nanoscale drug delivery system that can transport medicine directly to specific parts of the body. In the future, implemented nanoscale devices may be able to release pain-relieving drugs, such as morphine or other anesthesics in a carefully controlled dose when needed. Although this technology does not yet exist in the form shown in the game, it's based on real areas of scientific research. That said, this is where Metal Gear Solid moves firmly into science fiction. Nanomachines cannot currently stop a person's movements or physically prevent someone from pulling a trigger. Looking further ahead, however, it is possible to imagine future implemented technologies that interact with the nervous system rather than physically immobilizing someone. Such a system might be capable of generating an intense pain signal or another neurological response to discourage dangerous action. There is no evidence that nanotechnology can achieve this today, but it perfectly illustrates Hideo Kojima's approach, taking genuine scientific research and imagining where it might lead decades into the future.
Snake, watch out. That place is filled with gas. Also, the floor is electrified. First, destroy the high-voltage switch. It's the switchboard on the northwest wall.
But how? I can't reach it.
Use a remote-controlled missile.
Snake's route is blocked by an electrified floor, preventing him from continuing any further. The only way forward is to destroy the electrical control panel, hidden deep inside the facility. To do this, Snake acquires the Nakator, a remote-controlled missile launcher. Unlike conventional rocket launchers, the Nakator allows him to guide the missile around corners and through narrow corridors, using a live camera feed, enabling him to destroy the control panel from a safe distance. The Nakator is another example of Metal Gear Solid blending science fiction with real-world military technology. When the game was released in 1998, the guided missiles already existed. Systems such as the American BGM-71 TOW and the French-German Alarm allowed operators to guide missiles towards its target after launch using wires connected to the missile. These weapons were highly effective on the battlefield, but they were designed for engaging vehicles over open terrain. The idea of guided missiles dates back even further to the Second World War. Rather than being invented by a single person, remote-controlled missile technology was developed by teams of engineers in several countries. Germany's Rostall X4 and America's JB4 were among the earliest practical guided weapons, laying the foundations for the precision-guided missiles used today. The Nakator takes these real ideas much further. Instead of simply guiding a missile across an open battlefield, Snake pilots it from a first-person perspective through tight corridors and ventilation shafts with remarkable precision. That level of control was well beyond the capabilities of real missile technology in the 1990s. Today, however, guidance systems have advanced considerably. Modern missiles such as the Spike NLOS transmit live video back to the operator, allowing targets to be identified, and in some situations, the missile's flight path to be adjusted after launch. While they are not designed to weave through buildings like the Nakator, they demonstrate how Metal Gear Solid once again to generally military technology and imagine where it might lead in the future. Although the Nacator itself is fictional, the tactical decisions Snake makes is based on real-world military thinking. Rather than attempting to cross an electrified hazard, he neutralizes the danger from a safe distance before moving forward. In the real military operations, personnel are trained to avoid unnecessary exposure to hazards whenever possible. Engineers, explosive ordnance, and disposal teams will typically isolate the power source, use remotely operated equipment, or find an alternate route instead of entering a dangerous area. While guiding a missile through ventilation shafts is pure science fiction, the principle of removing a threat before advancing is firmly rooted in real military tactics. The history of gas masks stretches back more than 175 years. In 1849, an American inventor, Louis P. Hazlitt, patented one of the world's first practical filter respirators, known as the Hazlitt Lung Protector. Using a simple filtration system, it was designed to help workers breathe more safely in dusty, hazardous environments. By the outbreak of the First World War, chemical warfare had changed the battlefield forever. In 1915 and 1916, British physiologist John Scott Haldane, alongside other British scientists, helped develop effective military gas masks to protect soldiers from deadly gases such as chlorine and falstream. These designs dramatically improved the soldiers' chances of surviving chemical attacks. Around the same period, Garrett Morgan invented a safety hood, a smoke respirator designed to help firefighters and rescue workers enter smoke-filled buildings. Although it was not a military gas mask, it became an important step in the evolution of respiratory protection and saved many lives. Today's modern military gas masks are no longer the work of a single inventor. Instead, they are the product of more than a century of continuous research and development by scientists, engineers, and defense organizations around the world. Modern masks protect against a wide range of chemical, biological, radioactive hazards, while allowing soldiers to communicate, see clearly, and operate effectively in contaminated environments. In Metal Gear Solid Between Snake enters a room filled with a mysterious yellow gas by attempting to locate Dr. Hal Emmerich. The game never reveals exactly what the chemical is, but Snake can survive brief exposure and is fully protected by a gas mask. It is more likely intended to represent a fictional, incapacitating gas rather than a lethal chemical warfare agent. The closest real-world comparison would be CS gas, commonly known as tear gas. First synthesized in 1928 by American chemists Ben Coursey and Roger Staunton, was later developed into a practical work calculated during the 1950s. It causes intense irritation to the eyes, skin, and respiratory system, but is intended to be non-lethal when used correctly and in controlled concentration. Would a real military facility use gas as a security barrier? Potentially yes, but not on its own. A non-lethal chemical agent could be used to slow, disorientate, or deter an intruder, while security forces respond. In reality, however, it would almost certainly be combined with reinforced doors, surveillance cameras, intrusion alarms, and armed personnel. A real special forces operator would not simply enter the contaminated area, then first identify the hazard, put on appropriate respirator protection before entering, minimize the time spent inside the contaminated zone, and communicate the threat to the rest of the team. If there were a safe alternate route, they would likely avoid the gas altogether. If the entry was essential, they would proceed using established chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear CBRN procedures. While Metal Gear Solid simplifies these procedures for gameplay, this depiction of using a gas mask to overcome a contaminated security area is inspired by real military doctrine, even if the Pacific yellow gas remains fictional. The cyborg ninja is one of the most advanced soldiers ever imagined in gaming. Enhanced with cybernetic technology, possessing incredible speed, superhuman strength, and lightning-fast reflexes. His advanced armour and stealth camouflage make him an opponent, unlike anything seen in the real world. Back in the late 1990s, this level of technology was simply not possible. Researchers were experimenting with early exoskeletons, prosthetic limbs, and advanced body armour. But everything was large, heavy, and confined to laboratories. While Metal Gear Solid imagined the future, the real world was still taking its first steps. Fast forward to today and the gap has narrowed. Modern exoskeletons can help soldiers carry heavy equipment. Prosthetic limbs can respond to nerve signals, and wearable robotics continue to improve. Even so, we are still decades away from creating a real cyborg ninja. Stealth camouflage is one of the cyborg ninja's most impressive abilities. He can disappear almost instantly, making him nearly impossible to track. In the late 1990s, however, military stealth was focused on aircraft, ships, and specialized materials designed to reduce radar detection, not making soldiers invisible. Today's researchers are developing adaptive camouflage, multispectral concealment, and materials that reduce a soldier's thermal signature. These technologies can make troops harder to detect with night vision infrared cameras. But true optical invisibility, like the cyborg ninja stealth camouflage, remains science fiction. One of the cyborg ninja's most iconic abilities is his use of a katana to slice bullets out of the air. During the fight, he is seen deflecting incoming gunfire with some incredible precision, and in some scenes appears to cut bullets in half. In reality, this simply isn't possible. A typical rifle bullet travels between 700 and 1,000 meters per second, giving a person only a tiny fraction of a second to react. Even Snake's Sokol pistol fires a .45 caliber bullet around 250 to 290 meters per second. That's far too fast for any human to see, react to, or cut in half with a katana. The cyborg's ability to deflect bullets is a product of his fictional cybernetic enhancements, not real-world physics. Even the fastest human reaction times are far too slow to see a bullet after it has been fired, let alone move a sword accurately enough to intercept it. While katana is incredibly strong, can cut through soft materials like bamboo and even thin metal. Under controlled conditions, however, striking a high-speed bullet would almost certainly damage the blade, send dangerous fragments in unpredictable directions, and fail to stop the projectile. Cutting a bullet cleanly in half with a sword remains firmly in the realm of science fiction. If someone wanted to defend themselves from gunfire in the real world, they rely on cover, concealment, modern ballistic protection, not a sword. The cyborg's bullet-cutting ability is one of the series' most memorable visual moments, but it is designed to showcase his superhuman cybernetic enhancements rather than reflect real-world physics. So what could a real cyborg ninja actually look like? Closest comparison would be a highly trained operator wearing a modern bullet-resistant suit, carrying a sword as a secondary weapon. He wouldn't have superhuman speed and bullet deflector reflexes or true invisibility. He would still present an extremely dangerous close-quarters threat.
Where is my friend?
What? What are you talking about?
As the fight began, I started strong and focused. I used the walls for cover and was able to avoid the ninja's attacks. Whenever he came around the corner or left himself open, I took the opportunity to strike.
Good. Now we can fight as warriors. It is the basis of all combat. Only a fool trusts his life to a weapon.
was able to stay one step ahead, remaining patient and using the environment to my advantage. But as the ninja boss battle progressed, the pace of the fight increased. The ninja's attacks became faster and more aggressive, leaving me less time to react. As the battle continued, I started taking damage because I was no longer able to match his speed and aggression. Despite the pressure, I stayed calm and focused. I refused to panic, waited for the right opportunities to counteract. Avoided taking unnecessary risks. In the end, patience and determination paid off, and I finally brought the cyborg ninja down.
I felt that, Snake. Do you remember me now?
It can't be. You were killed in Zanzibar.
That encounter is one of the reasons Metal Gear Solid has remained so influential for almost 3 decades. The cyborg ninja isn't introduced as just another boss to defeat. He's introduced as a mystery. He appears without warning, demonstrates abilities that seem almost impossible, and then disappears, leaving Snake and the player with far more questions than answers. Moments like that changed how stories could be told in video games. Instead of explaining everything immediately, the game trusts the player to keep asking questions and uncover the truth over time. It's a style of storytelling that builds suspense rather than relying on constant action. But there's another reason this scene stands out. The cyborg ninja represents a growing blend of science fiction and military realism that defines the Metal Gear series. Throughout this documentary, we'll continue to compare the ideas with the real-world history, technology, military doctrine, looking at where the game stays grounded in reality and where it deliberately pushes into fiction. Because that's what makes Metal Gear so fascinating. It's never just about the firefights, it's about the ideas behind them. Now let's continue the mission.
I need information about Metal Gear.
Huh? Metal Gear?
Yeah. What's Metal Gear really designed for?
It's a mobile TMD. It's designed to shoot down nuclear missiles. Only for defensive purposes, of course.
Liar! I already know that Metal Gear is nothing but a nuclear-equipped walking deathmobile.
No. All the armament was built by a separate department. And the President personally supervised the final assembly with the main unit.
President Baker?
Yeah. I was never told exactly what they armed Rex with. I only know it's equipped with a Vulcan cannon, a laser, and a railgun. I'll show you the way.
On that leg of yours, you'll just slow me down.
You'll need me if you're gonna destroy Rex.
I don't need you. I just need your brain. Meryl, the engineer's okay.
That's a relief.
I want you to look after him. Where are you now?
Very close. There she is. Oh no! Damn, they spotted me!
Meryl, what happened? Something's wrong.
Did you hear something? Wasn't that some kind of music?
What did she look like?
She was wearing the same green uniform as the terrorists.
Before becoming a cyborg ninja, he was Frankie Yeager, who was also known by the codename Null, the Perfect Soldier, during the events of Metal Gear Solid: Portal Ops. Later he became better known by the codename Grey Fox, a legendary Special Forces soldier who was once one of Snake's closest friends and most respected comrades. During the events of Metal Gear 2, Snake defeated Grey Fox in a brutal hand-to-hand fight inside a minefield in Outer Heaven. After these events, Grey Fox was captured and transformed through experimental cybernetic enhancements into the cyborg ninja. So how realistic is the cyborg ninja as a complete package? I give him 3 out of 10. Advanced prosthetic limbs, powered exoskeleton, bullet-resistant armour, all exist today in limited capacities. However, his superhuman speed, ability to deflect or cut bullets with a katana, survive enormous amounts of damage, and become optically invisible, remain firmly in the realm of science fiction. One interesting detail about Grey Fox is his appearance changed throughout the Metal Gear series. In the earliest appearance, Frankie Yeager was depicted with dark hair, a red bandana. In later games and official artwork, his appearance was redesigned with grey or white hair. Original Metal Gear games never fully explain how Frankie Yeager earned the codename Grey Fox. Many fans believe the name Grey is connected to his later appearance, while Fox reflects his role as one of Foxhound's elite soldiers. However, Hideo Kojima has never officially confirmed the origin of the codename. Like many long-running game series, Metal Gear evolved over time. Characters' designs and backstories changed as the series expanded, making Grey Fox one of the best examples of how the franchise developed across different generations of games. The cyborg ninja may not exist today, but the technology that inspired him is advancing every year. As science continues to push the boundaries of what is possible, one question remains: how much of Metal Gear's future will eventually become our own?